Hello, this is a supplementary video for the week 5 lecture content, the third video for this week. Um, I'd like to say something about page 179, section 3, existential import. I think the, there's a particular interesting insight here on this page I'd like to draw out. Uh, the author here writes, an explicitly existential proposition has no predicate distinct from its copula. It simply says that a subject exists or that it does not exist. And then further down, everyone knows fish exist, and everyone knows that leprechauns don't. But some people think witches exist, and some think they don't. But we cannot decide whether or not a proposition in itself has existential import, meaning, by taking polls to see how many people believe that the subject of that proposition exists. The objective meaning of a proposition is one thing. Whether someone subjectively believes it to be true or not is another. So how do we decide whether propositions that are not explicitly existential propositions have existential import or not? All modern logic texts solve this problem by claiming that all universal propositions lack existential import, and all particular propositions have it. This is not what traditional Aristotelian logic assumes. I think this is an interesting insight here in that it raises the distinction between traditional Aristotelian logic and the role of existence in Aristotle's philosophy, which was more intrinsic, orientated towards meaning, telos, purpose, versus modern mathematical formal logic, which empties out the content of the concept of existence, turning it into a purely functional, relational function. Karl Popper referred to this as logicism. So, in some notes I took down earlier that I also posted online, I wrote that in modern formal mathematical logic, existence, i.e. all men are, blah, dot, 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 is reduced to a functional category. It ceases to be an ontological category. The concept of existence is emptied of its undisclosed content. This move of mathematical logic away from traditional ontology has enabled the wonderful growth of informational and computational theory. But this has come at the cost of explaining human nature, consciousness, and purposefulness. On another note, so in that sense, you can see how by ridding itself of the burden of trying to grasp at unfathomable speculations about purpose, final causes, telos, all this stuff associated with Aristotelian causal theory. Modern logic is able to really do a lot more on a relational side. And we see with the immense growth of computational theory, computer languages, all of this wouldn't have been possible without this move to mathematize formal languages and logic in the late 19th century. So I'm not sort of knocking that sort of recent almost a wondrous growth in modern logic, but I just want to mention its limitations and make us aware of its limitations. The idea that if only we can make valid inferences on whichever problem comes to hand, we can come up with a solution that is or a description or an understanding that is flawless. And I often see that with people with some training in analytic philosophy, who, although who manage to create valid arguments for very bizarre, even crazy political and social views and positions. So they hold these very untenable, uh, yeah, really outlandish social and political perspectives, because they've managed to find a a managed to find valid inferences, logically or argumentatively sound positions for supporting them. And this Popper was against this, I think, because there's an ethical aspect to that, in that very dangerous social and political worldviews can then be supported as long as we can find correct arguments for them. So I think, and what this does is it removes the need for intuition, for experience, for emotional engagement with reality, with the real world, that that enables us to respond to that. Well, to be able to see, well, these arguments, these arguments may be sound, they may be rigorous, however, just look over there. This is not right. This is a disaster. There is that that I think what I'm trying to get at is that need to be aware of the limits of this wonderful tool we have of logical reasoning, discursive rationality, making sound inferences and judgments and arguments, and the need to, where possible, and upon final analysis, to bring back intuition into the equation, to bring back discernment, that great Ignatian idea of discernment, of judgment, of all these ideas related to experience, and our experience of our life world and our social reality. So in that sense, we need to appreciate the difference between this sort of Aristotelian thick view of existence, and the inability to really do a great deal logically with this with this model, and versus the more recent mathematical logic, formal logic, that takes a very thin view of existence, a view in which the content has no content. The concept has no content, but it is very highly useful from a technological perspective. So that's my thought for today. Thank you. Bye.